You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei. Hello and welcome to the Techie Leadership Show. I am your host for today, Bogdan. With me co-hosting is Andrei.
Hello.
And in our fabulous role of interview guest, we have Luciano Ciccone. Luciano
Hi.
has over 15 years of experience in various roles in sales, support, administration, and management at small, medium, and multinational organizations. He is a father of one and expecting one more. Congratulations. And works as an advisor at the leading financial firm in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Hello, Luciano.
Hey.
Hi, Bogdan, Andrei. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Pleasure. Unbeknownst to our listeners, Luciano and us go back to our Canadian days. We used to work for the same company, so we have that in common.
Yes.
Those were some great times together, boys.
Yeah. It was.
I actually think about them fondly from time to time.
Well, that's good. It was really interesting to work with you guys. You have an interesting philosophy when it comes to work, and I really appreciated the fellowship. So it's an honor to join you today.
Thank you. Likewise. Would you like to add a couple of more things about yourself?
Well, I was born in Montreal, and as you mentioned, I'm currently working in Thunder Bay. An opportunity brought me here, something more leadership-y, as we would say. I've moved quite a bit throughout my career and throughout my life, seeking to constantly better myself and find strong mentors to hone my skills. Leadership roles seem like a natural draw at first blush, but with an atypical educational career as I've had, it's been challenging to find the right fit. Oftentimes, I really have to innovate and build processes of my own, try to be the most skilled person in a group full of newbies. So right now I'm working my butt off for a fantastic organization. I have ample opportunity to learn and grow, which, as you know, is great qualitatively for a leader. Yeah, thank you. And I hope eventually to buy into the organization and help it grow, continue to grow exponentially. So, yeah.
I wish you lots of luck, and it's always nice meeting someone who actually finds professional fulfillment. So
that's really important.
It's really important.
It's an interesting dichotomy because, especially in the realm of hiring and securing talent, it's very difficult to find people that have that desire to expand or to grow professionally. It could be a generational thing or just a philosophy thing. But it's really good to be in that space and to be to have that advantage. Yeah.
So let's get right into it. Would you like to share with us what you believe to be the biggest leadership fail story that you've had the unfortunate experience of witnessing?
Well, yeah, it's exciting. I was thinking about how I would approach this, but I guess just kind of letting it out is probably the best avenue. At a prior job, actually, one of the ones that we did together, I had brought somebody more senior with me on a sales call for a very large opportunity. Yeah, for a very, very large opportunity. And I was looking to observe how this person negotiated and engaged with the prospect and, see if I could
learn from the experience.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
And learn from the experience.
Essentially, yeah. Learn from your betters. That's usually the calling, right? But as the call went on, we went through the rapport building, discussing what they needed, what we had to offer. But as time went on, I guess there was sort of a failure to communicate between this person and the prospect. And as the prospect became more and more leery, this person pressed and even cracked in his professionalism by accusing him of being difficult and Chinese.
Oh my God. What does that even mean?
Well, I guess this person had the impression that Chinese people were difficult to negotiate with. I'm just paraphrasing. It's not a belief that I share. But needless to say, I took this leadership that was offered with a grain of salt from then on. And further to that, actually, it gets more interesting. He actually chastised me for taking him on this and I quote, pointless call, and even cited it as a negative in my next performance evaluation.
No.
Oh
So
my God! So you were
I
to
was,
blame.
well,
No way.
naturally, I told him to call him difficult in Chinese, so it's
Yeah,
obviously my
yeah. It
it's
was
obviously
in a
my fault.
memo. Oh my God!
Oh no.
Must have
What
missed it. But
was?
I kind of realized. But you know what? It was a good learning experience. I realized even the people at the top sometimes drop the ball, as it were.
Well,
Yeah.
we're all humans, so each and every one of us is capable of the entire human range of emotions. So yeah, was
You expect more from the people signing your check.
Yeah, that's
true.
true. But it also helps to see that they're also human and
Yeah.
realize I could be a boss one day.
Yeah, I, I I always took this as motivation to achieve higher grounds in my professional career because um, you meet a lot of amazing people that work in managerial leadership or ownership positions in great companies, but you also meet a lot of people that your first thought after meeting them is like, how are you so successful? And it emboldened me into, if they can do it, by God, I can do it also.
Yes,
And have fun doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Well, it's interesting just to see how some people manage to climb the ladder in spite of themselves.
In spite of
Yeah.
themselves.
Well,
And what lessons did you draw from that experience?
Well, just that nobody's perfect. Well, nobody's perfect is a pretty overarching lesson, but that sometimes you can have done everything and the next person can't do any better. You know, I used it sort of as a litmus test to, did I check off all the boxes that I needed to? Did I leave anything on the table? And evidently I did not. And so sometimes even if you feel you haven't done everything, chances are you've done the best that there could be to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
Um,
it
makes.
makes perfect sense.
and I also learned that, just because someone stands at the top doesn't mean they're the best at everything, right? Usually, I don't know, an engineer starts an engineering company doesn't necessarily mean they'll be good at sales or human resources or what have
Oh,
you.
Yeah,
It added a bit of perspective, and it made me realize if ever I adopted a leadership role, that I would need to employ the right people to make those decisions for me and afford them that trust, right? Trust that these people will make the right decisions and they'll do right by the organization. It doesn't bode well for a micromanager if they don't know exactly what the nuances are of each and every role,
yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
Very healthy mindset.
do my best.
And on the opposite side, what would be a leadership success story that you had the honor of witnessing?
Well, I don't have a material success, although I noticed
Doesn't have
It
something.
to be.
doesn't have to be material.
Okay, so immaterially, in my current role, my mentor, my direct supervisor, has this interesting belief that so we work in finance, insurance, pensions, what have you, basically solving financial problems, for lack of a better term. And it's his belief that the best people suited for those roles are people who have zero experience in the space. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
when I
Yeah.
pressed him as to why, he said, "Well, when you think of an insurance person, what do you conjure up as an image? You conjure up snake oil salesmen, door-to-door charlatans, and there's a reason behind that, because those people hire other people and train those people to be exactly like that, right? So to
Yes.
fight against that narrative or to fight against that belief, you get outsiders that come in, learn the business, and apply their own experiences into the space. And by doing that, you get to experience authentic conversations, authentic relationships, and a desire to do right by the client, rather than finding the most profitable avenue. You look at 2008, for example, the housing crisis. A lot of
Yes.
Yeah.
people in finance and mortgages, for example, just did the thing that was best for their commissions, not necessarily for the clients, put people in subprime mortgages, and the entire market went belly up. So I think it's a very bold move to help ramp up newbies and invest a lot of time and money rather than let seasoned veterans come in and taint the impressions further. So I see that as a huge success, a huge risk being taken, and it appears to pay off.
Yeah, and it is a huge risk because
Big risk.
you don't know exactly, but you need to have like the confidence. Look, I can take anybody as long as they have the basic skill set. They're humans basically. Um, I can help them and I can guide them and I can show them the ropes and build something that's actually it's beneficial for the whole area of business that we're doing. So
And it
that's really interesting.
and absolutely, and it kind of goes back to the notion that you have to take, you have to move around, you know, as a professional. You have to sort of glean the experiences that you can from place to place. You know, I think the most successful leaders kind of start at the bottom. I mean, not to be cliche, but look at Jeff Bezos, for example, who
Yes.
started in a garage. You know, you kind of have to start from that bottom. You know, if you come from the middle and you just go to somewhere else, you're not necessarily bringing value to the organization. You're just taking your successes and failings, most often your failings, and you're propagating them. You're repeating them in a new locale. You know, so
Mhm.
I think it's a very good move, and you know, part of being a leader is to take those uncomfortable steps. Yeah.
Regarding what you said about taking non-sales type people and building them up to be financially savvy and sales savvy to do the work. I can't remember the name of the author, but I read this amazing quote that said, "After a field of work or study has matured, the only way it can grow anymore is to get people outside the field to commit to it." So it's again what you said, like a fresh perspective and new experiences from solving other challenges and tasks. So yeah.
And and what's most important, I think, too, is to have people that want to work hard. I mean, unfortunately, and to go back to the discussion of generationality and work ethic, a lot of people don't want to put in the time. So if you get these outsiders that are hungry and, you know, they want to succeed, and they're not just looking at the paycheck, but overall, you know, being in a role that they're happy to wake up in the morning going to do, you know, prepared to grow and prepared to put in the time, we need more people like that. You know, so you can read all the books in the world and you can train these people till they're extremely adept, but if they don't want to do the work, then you're
Oh yeah.
wasting your time.
No, yeah, yeah,
A good leader should identify who wants to and who doesn't, you know, who's hungry and who's not.
true. Um, Summing that up, what would be your leadership philosophy?
Be prepared to walk the walk. I mean, those that follow you, and I noticed this a lot in my last couple of roles, those that follow you are observing you a lot more closely than you think. And I believe it's important to tell each person, you know, good morning, thank them at the end of the day for a day's work. You know, you can't expect loyalty and 110% merely for providing people with a paycheck. And I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of leaders struggle to find good work. And I tell them, what do you offer employees? And their answer sardonically is a paycheck. Well, if that's the attitude you come to the table with, you're not going to hire the best people. You know,
Yeah.
these people grow, and you have to you have to sell yourself as much as the role.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
the only interaction you have with them is at the end of the month, well,
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. You even in all my jobs that I had, and I had leaders and managers, I always looked at them and see gauging like what are they doing, how are they approaching solutions. Is this a person I want to continue working for? Because that's a question that everybody should pose themselves a couple of times a year. Is it worth it to stay in this role, or have I outgrown it? Have they noticed that I have outgrown the role and they should promote me or give me something else to do? You have to see exactly, you have to be honest with yourself, and you also have to be fair with the people around you. So if you see like you're stifled in a position, maybe you should look for something else or speak up about it and see maybe you can find a compromise somewhere.
That's absolutely true. But it's tough. I mean, the cliche is true. People leave bosses. They don't leave jobs, right?
Oh yeah.
And
oh yeah, that is so true.
Relatable, you guys?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
especially in my experience.
sometimes people leave entire companies, not just bosses. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And on some occasions, people leave their coworkers, right? I mean, the family is only as good as the matriarch and the patriarch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that as a leader, you have an enormous responsibility to treat the people you work with as a family, and not necessarily just by saying it as a platitude, but that these people have wants, hopes, and dreams and lives after work. And if you can juggle that properly, you're going to have a powerhouse of workers that'll help you succeed. But if you roll in at 10, you peace out at 4, and you don't really care what they're doing, well, that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Amen.
What would be your top 3 leadership tips that you would have for aspiring leaders?
I guess the most important one would be to stay out of your ivory tower. It's important to show you're as much on the front lines as the people working for you, right? If you have a very big fancy office and everybody else has secondhand furniture and your door is always closed, well, it communicates something unconsciously, right? And
Yes, it
that's
does.
my second point. Give your employees a great place to work, from the atmosphere to the coffee, or even just like I was saying, to the furniture. If you furnish the office with secondhand goods, it unconsciously communicates to your employees that their value as well is secondhand, right?
Yeah.
My current employer, for example, when I walked in, all the furniture was new, and even the chair seemed to be picked for me. And he had said, "How will I get my best from you if I don't give you my best?" Right?
Whoa,
And
that's
So,
powerful.
so refreshing.
yeah, he put his money where his mouth is, but he also demands excellence. But at the same time, he's prepared to offer excellence,
Yeah.
right?
Kill you with kindness.
In essence, yeah. And I think another important thing would be transparency in your decision making, because it helps contextualize each step the organization is taking and each step the employees need to take in order for the organization to succeed. You can't just say go left. You should say, okay, we're going left because left has this, and this is what we expect from you in order to succeed with this left turn. Contextualizing is really important. It'll save a lot of time, and it'll dissolve that resentment or that contempt that people have being not being privy to information.
Yeah, and they have like a clear idea of what they have to do to get the results they want. If they want to promote, they know I have to do these steps and I'm going to get promoted. If they want a raise or they want a bonus or more vacation time, people have to know exactly what they have to do to achieve those goals.
Especially
Exactly.
since you mentioned transparency. If you're the new person in the company, but you can look at what the people around you did to get to the place in the career that they had. So there is a certain level of transparency. You can see, okay, so he started at exactly my position, and in 3 years' time, he got a more managerial role by doing this and that, and giving surplus in that category. Or you can think to yourself, am I willing to do that? And if the answer is yes, then you can say, okay, with this company I can do that, and I can expect a similar result for myself. So not second guessing.
And that's an interesting point. I think it dovetails, like process dovetails with transparency, right? Like if you know exactly what's needed of you in order to climb the ladder, whether it's just from entry level to senior or senior to manager, if you know what's expected of you, then yes, you have the choice. Do I want to go through all that? And if the answer is no, you're saving the organization headache and you're saving yourself a headache, right? So the sooner you get out, the sooner they can find someone new that they can train and place in that role. But I see a lot of people that just kind of fall into a role because they need the money or it seemed interesting, and for them it's dead end, and that doesn't help the organization. That latent contempt will make them less productive,
And it doesn't help the person itself doing the job. If you're not happy with it, you spend 8 hours a day there.
yeah.
Even if you
But
check
do you
out
want
the door.
but do you want devoted employees, or do you just want butts and chairs? That's the question you have to ask yourself as a leader. And if the answer is number 2, then keep on doing things the way you want. But unfortunately, being the leader is probably the least popular and least fun role there is, and in my mind, at least.
Yeah. We're trying to make it more fun.
Yes.
I'm having a great time. You guys are great
Yes.
leaders.
We're struggling. We want to be.
We want to be. Everybody works on improving.
Yes.
There you go.
And,
And you know what?
Talking. Yeah.
Blades are forged in fire, right?
Yes.
Discomfort is what makes you grow.
Yeah, that's so true.
True.
And since we're talking about improvement, what would be the book that had the most profound impact on you?
Now, I don't know if you guys know or if I told you, it's been a couple of years, but prior to my career in sales, I was an absolute mouse. I wasn't able to look people in the eye. I wasn't able to have a profound discussion with people. It's just, I didn't have it.
Really?
Really? Because
Absolutely. This to me, if you told me this 10 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. But the book that helped was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It helped me come out of my shell as a person. It helped me realize that there was more to winning the attention of people or winning deals in the context of work than by being nice. Being nice is like a baseline. You're not doing anything special. So there's a lot of moving parts in every personal or even professional relationship. There's a lot of nuance in what we do. And to acknowledge this and celebrate what people bring to the table can sometimes be the thing that wins you that business or that wins you that friend. And some people call it a manual on common sense. Well, reread it then. Just make sure you got everything down pat. But, just by adopting a few of the mannerisms that were encouraged in the book, I managed to have better conversations with people. I managed to maintain eye contact. Got me out of my head, which for a lot of introverts, I guess, is a very big thing. By nature, I'm an introvert. And
No.
I decided on a career in sales because I so badly wanted not to be a mouse anymore that I wanted to hinge my livelihood on my ability to step out of my comfort zone. I wanted my life to be tied to me fighting this, what I saw as a vice.
And I guess I feel like that's an important lesson for people to get is like, if you want to change and you have the desire for it, then you're going to do it, but you need to have the desire. And I must say, if you say you were a mouse, you are like the most extrovert person that I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have never guessed it.
It's training. It's nothing but training. I could have read that book, and I was an administrative officer at a hospital when I picked up that book. And all I really was a glorified secretary. So I was typing up reports. I had zero reason to talk to people. So if I read that book and stayed in that job, I had no incentive to improve. So I decided that I'm going to take a role in sales, which is arguably the most extroverted mandate, we'll call it, out there, and put my money where my mouth is, put some skin in the game. And that was a critical success. It could have been a critical failure, but it was a success.
Yeah.
Well,
Weak.
Well, each kick in your butt, it's a pace forward. So.
Yes.
Well, basically, and anybody can do it. Like, guys, if I could do it, then anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, Bogdan, you look at some leaders and you wonder, like, how did they get there?
Yeah, and it motivates you.
Oh, absolutely. I'll show them,
Exactly. And Luciano, if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
Well, I mean, given the hard focus of my business as one that's local, you can really only find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. But I'm happy if anybody is struggling with introversion, extroversion, or attracting talent. I'm happy to talk with people. And even in my business, I work with local and national and international organizations to help look after their employees. And one way you do that is with great group benefits. I mean, knowing that the employer is looking after the employee now and into retirement is also a big thing too.
Yeah.
It goes back to that. Well, I offer people a paycheck. You kind of have to do a little more in this competitive landscape. And, you need to protect the people that look after your organization from unnecessary risk. So find me on Facebook, find me on LinkedIn. If you see me on the streets of Thunder Bay, say howdy.
Yeah.
If I might drop in Romania one day, maybe we'll go do something.
Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Reach out to
Other than
Luciano.
that,
Reach out to Luciano, and especially if you want to become more extrovert, because he, for sure, he can help you. And also, if you want to implement in your company better benefits or and have like even with financial instruments, you can create more than a paycheck. You can create a company that you really feel cared for. So especially if you're in Canada and you want your company to take the next step, reach out to the channel.
thanks, Andre. I appreciate that. And it's been a distinct pleasure to work with you guys, and even to speak now.
Yeah.
I always have a big smile on my face when I talk to you guys. You're true blue.
Here.
You're good guys, and I wouldn't have done this for anybody else.
It's been a pleasure talking with you, Luciano.
Bogdan,
Bye.
Andrei, thank you.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com, including links to the guest book recommendations.